Connecting. Right. So things we've been hitting on and some key questions we want to ask ourselves in the process, always quantitative, qualitative. I kind of like this image really, because basically quantitative, you in here being the researcher, more or less an observer to what is actually going on. And in this case, even if you're collecting your data through surveys or questionnaires, the researcher, you step out of the actual work unless you're doing action research, and then you ask yourself the right questions. So basically, someone who is quantitative will go with the numbers. Basically, well, only 1 in 30 takes free ice cream. That's interesting. That's some form of findings. While someone who is qualitative will ask specific questions that will lead to why people took the ice cream, for example. Yeah? Good. And we'll be doing some things about taking our projects to the next step, right? So I want us to do something in a very short time. I think from the way we set it really helps, so we can do it in pairs. How about that? Online, I want you to sort of put your answers in the chat window to these questions, right? So the first one, in pairs, you ask yourself from the first one, what is your research question? Again, I want you to consider this, because what if you know yourself, and this one I use a word that Esther doesn't like me using. If you know yourself, it's just your own self-assessment, right? That your research question and what you've written for the proposal is rubbish, right? Meaning, you know that you didn't have enough time to do it. You know you submitted it anyway. You know you could have done better. I keep saying it's the same work that you're going to build on, so you still have a chance to change it. Right? So this is the point where you ask yourself again, right, okay, what is my research question? Discuss among yourself. And of course, after that, okay, do you have a clear focus? And of course, you want to explain it to each other. And most importantly, why did you choose that focus and why is it important? 10 minutes should be enough, right? Around, we talk to each other. Have a conversation. You need to fill that form. You can fill it.
But so we still really have a chance to edit stuff in research.
After it comes back.
You submitted your work. Yeah. Well, it's reasonable, but don't wait for it, like I said, because this is very compact. You know, if you have a whole year to do the research, it's different, right? And that's why I said you self-assessment kind of thing. Yeah. So if you've done the work, you've submitted it, that's going to be marked. Your final work, I'm going to read through the whole paper. Pretty much, I can give you your assignments, the full assignments, write a research paper that's focuses on a research topic or research question you are really interested in conducting. Yeah? You have a question mark on your face.
No, I don't.
Right. Okay. So in past 5 minutes, I'll give you a timer or 10 minutes. Quick discussion among the same thing. So you share your view. Why is it important to you? And you go. Yeah. I'll make this one shorter. Lucas, who are you joining? Or are you also feeling the fog?
No,
You can't.
she's thirsty. So yeah. So
I'll give the 2 of you together. 2 of
but
you,
we have just
and
one
then
extra person.
3 of you can work together.
I'm staying here.
Yeah,
Don't
two,
worry.
3, I don't
Stay
mind.
here.
Yeah, 2.
Don't worry.
3
I'm
of
staying
you,
here.
and then.
Sorry, I was going to ask.
Okay.
We are going to shift me to. I was going to ask. Is this on the Google?
It will be 5 races, like a brain. Well, you can take a picture. I can make it available. I will do. Right. So I pause the recording here. Online, please put your answers in the chat window. Just a quick reminder of the the significance of this. Next one, and then you carry on. So your research project, right? This is about the what, okay? Happy for me to continue. I'm just quickly going to read through it and then we think about it. Remember when you were talking about your questions and I actually said you can pick an overarching research question. That is, what is the one question you need answered? Yeah. Among the discussions, I heard people say, okay, my research question was, da, 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 right? And they had to read it word for word. But the question is, if you imagine I have enough money and then you met me and left and you've got only 4 minutes with me and you want to make your case and everything, but in the end you want to tell me this is the one question I want answered. Hello. Wait.
Welcome.
Thank you. We're on the what, okay? So basically, what was the research question again? You've asked yourself, and I was highlighting on the one question that you really need to answer, right? The overarching research question. It's not always the case that you have just one overarching research question, but having that in hand is really useful. And normally that helps you shape your topic and also shape your findings as well, right? And do remember, by the end of the research, you want to say that answers question number this, and that answers question. You want to address all your research questions, but you don't just want to address them. You want to link it to literature. Okay? Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody's saying yes, except that. Okay? Good. Okay. Right. Basically, what are you trying to find out? What does the literature say about it already? And I have just mentioned that as well. Right. Okay. So what sort of study will it be? Will it be an intervention case study and other things? You sorted it out with the proposals. And of course, what will you look for to answer in the research question? And was it Ayo? No, it wasn't. It was Ayo who asked a perfect question at the beginning about objectives and questions, right? What will be the most useful research methods, things we brushed through as well. So I'm happy to go on to the next one, which is how. That's the next stage, things that we're about to look at, okay? How will you find your answer in terms of the primary purpose of the research? How will your research method help you answer the question? If it is not going to help you answer the question, pretty much, you should change your mind now. What you have done, 40%, that's okay. Don't let that 40% dictate the 50% if you see it's very negative. Does it make sense?
Yes, please.
Yeah? Okay, right. How will you implement your research method and how will you analyze the data? Basically, make sure the data analysis can help you answer the research question. Then in terms of the process, where is my pen? Yeah. Well, you start with what is your focus, right? You can branch into two things, right? You have got your focus that gives you your research question. Basically, what are the main concepts underlying the research? And of course, you use that to use literature to support that as well. Yes? Good. Right. What does the literature say about it? And I say, right, this concept framework, we'll come back to that. I say, make life easy for yourself. Focus on what have other people done as far as this particular topic is concerned. What was their research findings? What was their key findings? How do they relate to each other? Do they differ from each other? Is there something that is missing? Or is my work trying to confirm what somebody says? At the end of the day, can I actually say my findings is similar to that person's findings? My findings contradicts that findings. These people contradicted each other. My findings support this person's work.
It's been a while I saw someone sweat. I used to feel good.
Right. So basically, yes, in some fields, people will have a heading for the conceptual framework. And also what I will add to it is that normally at the end of the literature review, yes, people actually highlight what model they will be using or what framework they'll be using and other things. In sciences and computing will probably be what sort of algorithms they intend to use, whether it's optimization algorithms and all those kind of things, or what the system model is going to be. At the end of the day, you really want to say, I understand what is happening in the field. And from my understanding, I've identified this research gap. And in order to fill that research gap, this is what the literature is saying about it. And hence, this is what I'm going to do about it. Because if you think about research, it's actually sort of prediction things that are going on. You're doing probabilities. You don't really know what the solution is going to be. However, through peer review process, you can actually tell that when you read someone's work and it's sound, you can tell. Yeah, when you read someone's work and it's sound, you can tell. And I do remember the first time I sat, say hello for all of us. The first time I sat in one of the internal conferences and someone was giving a research, and I think the topic was, I mean, I sat there as a computer engineer, scientist, and all, at the end I was like, I don't need to ask people to find out the answer, right? That's why most Africans do not seek help for terminal illness, or perception of Africans as in relation to terminal illness. That's why I look at you, because it's related to stuff you are doing. I mean, no, this wasn't your research. This something I started about 5 years ago, similar to your research, really. And I'm thinking, yes, if you ask most Nigerians from a typical village, they will say which is caused these things. Everybody knows where it's going to go. And eventually some of them are going to say, yes, and you still need support. But of course, if it's terminal, then what can you do about it? And all those kind of causes of it. And I'm thinking, yes, if I ask you, you tell me that, right? Yeah, you can tell me what people may think. Yeah. Yeah, you can tell me certain things. Then I'm thinking, okay, so is this something that someone really has to spend a lot of time to do PhD work on it? If you know the answers already, what findings are you going to find out that's different? But if same person stood up and presented a very strong literature review to say these are the findings of many people and this is a contradiction in there, this one was missing, because as far as this particular location is concerned, probably we have found, we've identified a particular society within Nigeria where religion is not considered to be the core thing. So they care less about religion. I want to go there because people's findings say that most people associate a terminal illness with religious purposes. I want to go there and find out what they think. Everybody will go like, yeah, we really want to see the findings of that. The significance of literature in there. Then you say, okay, these people use this particular model, they use this particular framework. I'm going to use the same thing, so I'll have something to compare my results with. Makes sense. If I'm talking too fast, I'm sorry. I hope you manage to slow down a little bit. Otherwise, we catch up with the recording. Online, are we on the same page?
Yeah.
Good. So if you've done your review in such a way that it's one of the work that I saw on Saturday and you are still on 98%, even though we've given ourselves so many chances to change it, please take advantage of this time. Change it as quickly as possible because you need to collect your data and analyze it. Right. You're happy for me to continue to the end of the class, right? Yeah. All right. So basically consider what sort of data do you need? And importantly, well, how will you collect the data? As we have this time, then you say questionnaire and say, how are you going to distribute the data and the questionnaire and other things, right? So all will lead to one thing. And you notice, yes, I could have mentioned objective, blah, 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 but we are interested in what is your answer to your research question. Do you have any question for me regarding what we just looked at? Yes, no, maybe, happy for me to continue. Good. No questions from, right? So earlier on, we started off by talking about ethics, right? I think you were with us online, so you had bits and pieces about it. And we just want to look at it from a bit more about the side perspective. So Zach, what were we saying that ethics was about?
Yeah, so it's basically it's about like depending on research type. So if you're doing a qualitative, so like ethics. I don't know. It's in my mind.
See your partner in time. She's laughing at you, but she's the one distracting you, right? Okay.
I have a big ethics section in my proposal.
He's like, you go and read. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to move us there.
It's like the principles
No,
are
no, no,
studying
it's
your
just
work.
Gladly you can move.
You want to include it there.
Right. We just started the presentation on ethics. So we just started talking about ethics anyway. So I like the way that this emphasizes on two things, right? So the first part, which is the who part, I don't want that. Let me get that up. Bear with me, please. Where is the cursor misbehaving? Oh, is that? And there we are, right? So the first part is the who, right? Which referring to people, individuals, right? And people tend to think, question you asked me a while back. I'm not dealing with people. I don't need to have a big consideration. Do you remember that? Yeah. So that would take us to this part, the what part. Yeah. So it's not just the people elements. What are the other factors that you need to consider? And the word there is ethically. And as we talk about it, we will have more about ethical parts. But at the same time, we have already had a conversation about this, which is safeguarding the people involved, safeguarding yourself, safeguarding your findings and other things as well, you as a researcher. But most importantly, you want to find out that the research you are doing is not going to cause harm. Harm to people, harm to things, harm to civilization, harm to history, harm to anything that can be done. Yeah. So if you are doing PhD, if you're doing PhD, for example, and you're an international student, before you apply for your CAS and other things. There's also a special form that you fill that shows that the work that you are going to do is going to be conducted ethically, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Then when you join the university, you go through another ethics applications and all those kind of things. Why? Because it's so important. So basically, you need to think about who you need to consider ethically and why, which is something I really want us to do. How might you obtain that ethics consent form from the people? And we've had some conversations about it where that held me accountable for providing a form as well. Yeah. And the timeline with as well, the timeline of it as well. Then, of course, ethics consent and basically how much more right and wrong, what else can be considered. I'll leave this slide on. We want to shuffle the teams a little bit without without moving people around. So I'll let Adobe join the two and let's 4, and I'll let you join them as well. Yeah. We are still in right. Think about it. Who do you need to consider as far as your research topic is concerned? Adobe is joining that, right?
Benny is joining us.
Yeah, joining you. You're not happy with that?
I'm just saying that.
I think I'm joining you too. No, I separated it.
Like, who are you?
It's a good balance.
You guys continue.
No, continue is a good thing. Question on the board. And we happy to go on. So in terms of the BIRA guideline, I'm actually going to upload it for you. Did anybody quote BIRA during your the proposal? Did anybody hear me say it?
Yes, sir.
Who was that? I give you chocolate.
I was the one. Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I owe you chocolate and I have it in recording, right? So I'm going to share this document with you and it gives you reference to the pages as well. If I don't, Esther will remind me, so I just upload it, right? Okay. Of course, a bit that you need to talk about this group conversation, but pretty much you can pay attention in terms of things we've talked about, the consent form, transparency in terms of data sharing and other things, right to withdraw at any point or given a certain number of days. Some researchers will put the dates, maybe like 35 days after data collection, because by then they would process the data. My voice is like white noise. As soon as you hear my voice, they will process the data and it will be out. So such kind of research, they kind of put it there. And of course, some funding bodies will sort of give you some guidelines in terms of, they have timelines in terms of when the data need to be available by and all those kind of things. Right. And some people sort of give incentives anyway, in terms of, well, let me go with incentives. Sometimes people say, if you pretty much, if you engage in this questionnaire for a chance to win an Amazon voucher, for example, and I have put forward a proposal before where they said, no, we have rules against giving incentives to students for research they participate in. It's a shame because they could have had some free meal. Right. Anyway, so basically incentives have arising from the participant research and things like disclosure. So especially dealing with school kids and other things, right? And again, the thing is your research, which is some of the things that normally when it comes to people researching for companies, right? People are usually extremely careful when it comes to that, because if you're going to do a research just to say, okay, maybe managers, God forbid, let's say managers want to impose something on the employees, for example, and you've just been commissioned to do that research, so people get strong findings to say, oh, Adobe did this research and it confirms that this change is good for you, and hence we are doing it. Meanwhile, maybe Adobe is getting pay rise or something after the research, and then or she has personal benefits that she's going to get. That is not ethical, because you're not doing the research for the sake of sharing of knowledge without any your own subjective influence in there. Of course, action research, you do have an influence. Yeah. Okay. Privacy, data storage, and some people are the security and other things. Right. Didn't see that coming. Right. So feedback. We're gonna do this and we take a break. Let's take a break. 15 minutes, 10 minutes break, shorter break now. How about that? Really important now. Right. So if we've already been through this in a different activity, so I'm just going to carry on to the next slide. So a bit of highlights, basically make sure you inform the consent, take into consideration the confidentiality, anonymity, privacy, data protection, right? This also has to do with where you store the data as well, yeah? And also make sure that your work is not going to do harm. So mostly people will do risk assessment as part of the ethics application, yeah? So Esther, what do people submit as part of their ethics application again? Sorry? No, risk assessment. That's what they do that, but we're talking about risk assessment now. And so informing them about their right to withdraw. And then of course, here most researchers will say, I'm taking this research from this particular angle. So this is where they, especially if they are doing race equality research, they will say a Black African male, and hence most, I'm approaching the research from the perspective of a Black African male. Right at the beginning, so they know who is doing the work. You may find people who will say, I'm a white female, I don't know much about the other racial backgrounds, but I am conducting this research, and hence my perspective will be from white middle class, all those kind of things. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Good. Make sure you tell truth and other things. Also include academic integrity in writing, and basically avoid plagiarism. Interesting images. So ethics in relation to different data collection. Basically, if you have interviews, are you collecting the data from colleagues? Are you working with pupils? If you're working with pupils, then basically you need to involve parents as well. And the work I told you about the flip side in terms of people, parents asking data about people who are writing, and an official searching, you may need their consent and other things, and then you can go ahead and ask your questions.
Can you change from people to like older people, like adults? Can you change this topic? So
Dorcas, Shakil, Dorcas, talk to each other in 1 second.
So if you want to change your topic, like to adults, do you do that?
Yeah.
I'm asking you. Can you do that?
Well, I think the key, the essence of us having that family chat was to give you an opportunity to think of ways that you improve your topic. And part of the things that we've done today is to revisit our topic, because I've said, you've done the 40%, don't let that 40% negatively impact your remaining 50%. You can actually decouple it. It depends on the work you submit in the final process, final submission, yeah? But you do not have that much time, because you spent like 6 weeks polishing the proposal and other things, and hopefully getting into the data collection. Because if you come to me last minute to say, I changed my research topic and hence I need extra time, I'm going to say, yeah. Yeah. Don't quote me on it. Right. Okay. So carry on. We've talked about questionnaires. We've talked about observations. We've talked about personal reflection, evaluation, especially moving into action research and other things. Using pre-existing data. Some people talked about pre-existing data, thinking was just going to be secondary data and other in terms of literature review, and we worked on that. We've talked about, okay, something I will merge into it as well, using images. And actually, I was in the workshop once, and then people asked, I was in a workshop once, and then people asked, you have a celebrity, you have another celebrity, you have so many celebrities. The one leading the session asked, so if I'm taking an image, right? So let's say I'm in public and I'm taking a photograph, and there's someone in the background, and I want to use that image. Do I need the consent of the people in the background?
Yes.
Why?
Like me, I don't like taking pictures.
Sorry?
Personally, I don't take pictures. I wouldn't
So you
like
said yes for the sake of it.
No, I would like it if I see my picture appearing somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, without me knowing.
Maybe don't that they make up. I don't want to.
Yes.
And then she turned it off.
Yeah, she can come to the moment I said Sanjana.
Scenarios to consider. I'm just going to read through them really quickly, pick randomly. Number 4, in a one-to-one interview with a colleague about the kind of strategies they use in their teaching of maths they believe to be effective, you find you strongly disagree with the views. Blah, blah, blah. Let's skip this. You can come back to it if you want. Happy for me to skip? Yeah. We've been through some important stuff as well. Ethical pitfalls and other things. I prefer we do it as far as our own research is concerned, which is what we've done mostly today. So if we are lucky, we get to have research questions. What approach could you take, and what would be the ethical issues? Let's pause here a little bit. I'm going to go with this one, right? Research question and example. To what extent, an example of it, to what extent do primary teachers believe that children were less able to explore verbally their mathematical reasoning post-COVID lockdown? They say, what approaches could you take, and what could be the ethical issues?
Awesome, awesome question.
Let's start with the celebrity.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah. You say,
Yeah, what are some of the ethical considerations?
first, we have to take the consent from the parents.
Mhm. Hola. So consent from parents and other things. Let's go straight to what are some of the ethical issues there. So basically, to what extent do primary teachers believe that children were less able to explore verbally their mathematical reasoning post COVID lockdown? So after COVID, the children struggle to express their mathematical reasoning, math reasoning, verbally, as in talk about mathematics. Do they struggle afterwards or not? Hola? Did you start with
I didn't know what to say.
He said Thinking about it, Edward.
That's the second one.
There's the first one.
The first one.
Yeah.
David, let me take it off on the first one. That's post-COVID. That's after the pandemic. Definitely, because they have lost touch.
Yeah, but what are some of the ethical issues? We're thinking about data collection process. Someone said consent, even though she said consent from parents. And then the topic is actually focusing on the teachers. So the teachers, but it's okay, it's still consenting, that's why I just keep quiet about it. So what are the things you need to consider? People can get ready. Yeah.
Thinking about.
You thinking about it? Anybody else thinking about it? What are some of the ethical issues? So if you are the one going to collect this data, what are some of the ethical issues you think about?
I think about the parents really want you to know their child is not yeah.
Or the school itself.
The school itself?
I think the school comes into play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
school
the
is
school might have the high ranking,
and then they don't want to.
and they don't want to know that.
So in that case, how do you as a researcher place yourself in such a way that the school may allow you to collect the data?
Except you're not going to share the data with any other person, so privacy.
So privacy, if you're not going to share the raw data, you can anonymize it because research, you can anonymize unless you're being, of course, commissioned by them. You can anonymize it. And of course, before the data goes out, if there is any part that needs to be redacted, you would. Yeah?
Yeah.
There's a lot more you can consider, but always I like doing this. So before we do our family chat, online, how we doing? Nita is gone again. Sorry, Nita. Sanjana.
Yes, sir. Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Brilliant. So I'm just going to share this with us, and afterwards,
So you have to write a paper, and your instructor has lectured you about not plagiarizing. Do you know how to do it? Welcome to plagiarism. How not to do it. Plagiarism is simply using other people's writing or ideas without giving them credit for it. It is taking the credit yourself. If you copy the entire text from someone else, say from a website or a book, and put it in your paper as your own writing, that clearly is cheating. You didn't write the words, someone else did. It is plagiarism of the worst kind. And if you do this, you know you're cheating. But sometimes people plagiarize without intending to. When you take sections of other people's work and include it in your paper, you must let the reader know which words and ideas are yours and which ones are someone else's. One way to do this is simply to quote your source. You put quotation marks around it or block quote longer sections and say where the quote came from. But you also need to cite the source of material you use in your writing, even if you're not quoting it word for word. For instance,
Don't quote unless you really have to. Yeah? There's definitions and other things that you can change. Okay, but ask yourself, do you really need to provide the whole definition? Online, I hope you heard that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Since let's say you're writing a paper about the invasion of Normandy during World War II. Because you read that there were somewhere between 130,000 and 156,000 troops in the invasion, you write that there were about 150,000 Allied troops in the landing. While you are not quoting the source where you got this information because you are writing it in your own words, you still need to tell the reader where this information came from. Not stand there counting troops on D-Day. Why? So you got the information from a source. So tell your reader. Depending on the style required, such as APA or MLA, you cite your source in the paragraph where you use the information. The same thing applies to ideas. If you're using someone else's idea, like the invasion of Normandy was one of the most important battles in American history, you should let the reader know where you got that idea. If it is your own conclusion after reading about it and studying it, then you do not need to cite a source because the source is you. It is your idea. Sometimes papers are a combination of other sources and your own ideas. That's okay. Just be sure to cite your sources and you won't be plagiarizing. The only time you do not need to cite other sources is when the information is common knowledge, like George Washington was the first US president. You do not have to find a source for this since it is common knowledge.
Who are you calling common?
For more detailed help in avoiding plagiarism, see the links below.
I like that. People were thinking, I wish I knew this before I did my Turnitin stuff. Key things for you to think about. Key things for you to think about whilst you fill in your forms and whilst you getting out of the class today. Well, what do you want to investigate? We've wrapped your topic and other things. Some of us have noticed we need to do some polishing, yeah, or changing of ideas and other things. Just stay away from other people's research topics, please. It's a bit too late to pick somebody else's topic, yeah? Just have your own topic. By other people, I mean people in the class, yeah? Right, basically, where will your contest be? Contest of research. Who will you need to contact potentially to research your certain education? Who will you need to contact? The person itself. If you're going to conduct interviews, think of the environment and your access to the person. If it's going to take 2 or 3 hours to find the college, are you going to find the person within that short time, right? And also, can you provide the right setting? There are some people who may prefer something like a coffee. Now we know we have someone who really know how to cook in the class as well, and other things. So the right setting also help. Do you have access to it? Basically, what I really want you to focus on personally is this. Remember, some of you, I said you can include a plan. So this is where your plan comes in place, all right? When will you start your research? And when do you aim to finish? You've done your proposal. When can you do your actual data collection? You go back, you look at the module guide, and you think, I need to submit my work by this week. Can I do the research in time? Am I a bit behind? Can I start writing a lot around some things like maybe I have my review, right? I know which sort of things that I could be working towards. Can I start jotting down some stuff? Because are you okay? No. Right. If you need a break, you can take it literally. Right. So basically think of jumping straight into things now. And you need an action plan. And make sure that, of course, this fits within your time frame, and make sure that you keep reminding yourself, set your own reminders. Set your own reminders, very important, because